Hello, everybody. How are y'all today? I'm in my net. Do you like it? You love it. How are you guys? It's great to see you back. I won't waste your time because I don't have the energy to waste your time. You don't want me to waste your time. Lady Gaga. I hope you're well. Drink water, sending love. We can wait till the outro. Lady Gaga. I'm looking at all cameras. Lady Gaga. Coachella 2025, we're here to dissect it, we're here to review it, we're here to get into it, and we're here to have a deep breakdown, appreciation, honest review. Okay, not reaction, because Coachella Live, things of that nature, if it's not a live stream, can't have that whole thing on here. Y'all not getting my page shut down that fast. We have ourselves a little drink. Don't worry about what I'm drinking. And we're gonna get into an honest review of this show. First, let me say this. Lady Gaga, me and her have a deep and personal relationship. Like throughout my life, throughout me growing as a person, me growing as an artist, me growing as a young child. I mentioned it in my first video on this page, and I'm gonna mention it again. I always say that a turning point for me in my growing, in my creativity, in my own and so many young kids, but so many young queer kids as well, know this is my channel, knows this experience of you sitting in front of a television or a computer screen or on your phone or your whatever and seeing your artist, your person do something revolutionary that just shocks your mind and shocks your creativity and be like, either this is who I want to be, this is who I want to be like. It awakes something in you. Mine was that 2013, I believe 2014 VMA performance of Applause in the middle of Art Pop Era, my favorite album. Once again, we'll save that for later because this is a Coachella review, but watching her do that award show, this was the same award show where Harry Styles was booed and she made some commentary about it. That was a turning point for me in my creativity, seeing such a theatrical performance, learning more about her story, learning more about how she was a person who overcame so much in her own life and a real human being behind that. Screw perfectionism, screw and honor the certain trauma, the energies of trauma, the energies of darkness, so many things, physical assaults and body violations that she had been through at such a young age that I, within my personal self and personal life, relate to 100% on that level. And so seeing her do what she did, being who she was, what she stood for, seeing that singing, that concept, that art, that deep thinking behind the artistry that she makes, those deep connections, every single thing she says, whether it be a word, even if it's just for fun, in a lyric, whether it be the costumes, the wardrobe, whether it be the way that we are leaning into or leaning out of choreography, the way that we are making certain statements, the way that we are not making statements, the way that we are, to reference or to not to reference, whatever it is, there is a deep universalness, a deep thought behind the things that she does on a human level, on an artist level, on a connected level, and the way that she has brought that out and brings that out to the stage every time blows my mind, and she continues to raises her game. And for me growing up, I was like, oh, that's the person. That she's a humanitarian on site, that's seeing the work that she's done with other kids and the Born This Way Foundation. I remember reading her book channel Kindness when I was younger, seeing her story. She sits on our art councils, doing things like that. She may not still sit on our art council, I don't know, since the presidency switched, but admiring that. I'm like, I see myself and in this artist. I see a similarity, I see an awe in what my creativity is like pinged by, that I see in her work, that I see in the human behind, the human and the human that is, Gaga. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I could get with this. When I would have, those high energies of perfectionism, and I'm like, I need to bust out my shell a little bit when I'm dancing, when I'm doing choreography, when I'm trying to write music, when I need to loosen up a little bit, I'm putting on Gaga, not because, oh, yes, I can have fun and an amazing time, and that is worth everything in life, right? But also because Gaga, I also remember, is a conference reference to me to embrace and stand in that full creativity, your full artistic vision, dream, your full experience, and to alchemize that into art in all of its rawness through the perfectionism or with that energy of projection, right? What any of those energies may or may not say. Put it into the art if that's what you want to do with it. Let's talk about Coachella. Let's talk about Coachella. It's not that strong. Hands down, I think her best performance or her best body of work performance in her career. If not the best, second best. And the only reason why I say that is because the art rave, up until this day, up until last night, had always been my favorite body of work brought to life on a stage from her, always, okay? We can have a whole another subsection about art pop. This may be the best, or not. I'll let you decide. The show takes place on the stage of an opera house. Skip to that part of the video if you want to hear about the opera house. We're getting into the breakdown of the set list first. And a little bit of the background. Victorian era themed, okay? If you don't know, that is like, 1850s, X, Y, and Z, England, a couple other countries, whatever. The Victorian area. Queen Victoria of the Englands, of the UKs. Don't at me. I'm not on here claiming to be a history major, okay? Victoria era themed. Immediately beautiful because Lady Gaga performs 20 songs. She goes 5 different acts. The first act being, she has 5 different acts. The first act being of Velvet and Vice. She performs Bloody Mary. I have my notes. Bloody Mary, Abracadabra, Judas, Skeeby, and Garden of Eden. Poker face. Let me tell you how brilliant this is. First of all, she opens up Bloody Mary. Immediately, the things that I noticed, you have this opulent queen who's standing on top of the stage, right? And this Queen Victoria-esque, this theatrical opulence that's going on. Then immediately you can see as well the Gothic references that are going on within the performance, the visuals. I mean, I'm going to mention it later, but the stage production, the costuming, the choreography. And let me say this now, Paris Goebel, please somebody correct me in the comments if I'm saying her last name wrong. Because this is my first time, this is like my first time speaking it out loud to the camera. But I've been keeping up with her for a minute now. And when I was so excited to hear that she was going to be doing this performance with Gaga for Coachella. But Paris Goebel, let me tell you something. If you've ever seen this, you're an icon. You're a genius. You push creative boundaries. When I'm on stage, I want to work with you. When I get the time to work with you, we gonna work together. Your mind and the way that you can dive deep into a theme and emerge a story, a feeling, an emotion into the art of body, into the art of performance, and blend that, and the way that it can be tailored to the artist's individual sense of individuality when they are performing on a stage. It is beautiful. It's not, and no shade, it's not the generic 1-2 regular moves that you get from a background dancer just so you can have some background dancers, some hype mans to fill up the back, stage of the show whenever you are performing. When I see a performance, it's getting to the point that I can see it and my mind goes, I wonder if that's Paris Goebel. Not because one specific move or one specific thing, but because it's just that damn good. Because there's a theatricality, there's a story to it, there's an energy to it. There's oh, wait a minute. These aren't just a little background, these aren't the 4 background dancers that you just hire to fill up the space in the background and keep the crowd hype. These are performers, these are actors, these are dancers, these are humans. And Paris, your mind and your ability to do that is beautiful. And Gaga, you smart for hiring her, and Gaga, your ability for your vision to emulate what you do, y'all's collaborativeness. I had to highlight Paris from them. The rest of the videos about you, Gaga. A beautiful collaboration. You come out in this Queen Victorian era, in this era get up. You start out with Bloody Mary of Velvet and Vice. Velvet of Vice. Immediately my mind goes to love, sensuality, romance, smexual things. I don't know what I can say on YouTube yet. Still ain't checked them guidelines, but smexual things and the taboo. Vice, right? Vice, right? And the taboo. That's what my mind goes to when I hear a Velvet and Vice. And then immediately, You know, in Bloody Mary, beautiful song. You have this embracing of love. The song about the embracing of love, the embracing of spreading and sticking to your lover's philosophies, the beautifulness of your lover, the beauty of the love and what it stands for over this possible tragedy that's going on, right? Even this story of Mary Magdalene and Jesus Christ that Bloody Mary is about. So you have so many things. You have love. You have spreading messages. You have sticking to it. You have dichotomies in references to religion, right? This Victorian era thing that's going on, and you have it under Velvet and Vice, which is already interesting. It already perks my mind a little bit. That goes on. I love that sort of duality, right, that Gaga brings to a lot of her art. But immediately, this dress that she's in the beginning of the show, it opens up, and what do you see that's sticking out from right in between her legs in this huge dress that opens up? It's a bunch of women stuck in a cage. Wait, Victorian era? And I had to do some research. I saw it and I caught the note. I watched a live stream of the show of another person reacting to it weekend one. Last night I stayed up and watched it live for weekend two. And this morning, I was reviewing some videos again, and I said, wait a minute, what time period is this? Because I'm noticing all these Victorian era corsets and bodices and things. What time period is this? And I had to look it up. Women in Cages, Underneath Your Skirt, of Velvet and Vice, Act 1. Immediately, there's this statement that is being made about a woman's connection to power. Or let me say this. The relationship between women and sex in society, historically and today. In the Victorian era, for the modern class and for women's, sex was very taboo. No, you don't do this. You please the man. You don't do this. You don't dress like this. You don't say this. You don't talk about it. This sort of sexual puritanism of it all was being birthed, right? It was very taboo. Women were suppressed in that nature, but at the same time, so much of the vice world, right, prostitution and all these other things were so off the charts and prevalent and popular. Doesn't really shock me if you want to make some parallels to today's culture or popular American of culture of we don't say this, women dress like this, and women are supposed to be more sexually submissive and not supposed to like this. I even still hear little children sometimes be like, girls don't like that, but boys do, and X, Y, and Z, yada, yada, yada. But wait, why are some of the strip clubs and some of the magazines and some of the things that you can Google online to watch in your own spare time, if you know what I'm saying, why is all of that so popular? Why is that industry making so much money? Why is it that we're shaming women for X, Y, and Z, but we're turning around and we're embracing a culture to get them to purposely change their body? No hate, you do what you want with your body. That's not the purpose of what I'm saying. This is just me simply pointing it out. Follow me if you can. And it's not because of the drink that I'm talking fast, right? But we can still turn around and influence a culture that way. And even this historical history of women being disconnected from autonomy, disconnected from the right and the pride and the confidence to be able to say, I'm a strong, sensual, sexual person. This is what I like. This is what I don't. Let me embrace this. Even the way that America, the way that men, the way that other people have attacked women so much on the basis of just viewing them as something purely for intercourse. And how so many other socioeconomical and cultural things has stemmed off of just that. Right? There's this rage that comes through, but you open up this big skirt and it's this women that's stuck in a cage underneath your skirt who are all breaking out. Mayhem is breaking out. This reclaiming of power, this reclaiming of rage, this rebellion against it, against suppression, a long-standing suppression, a long-standing ideology against women, which was also prevalent in the Victorian era. Keep up with the cross connections, keep up with the connections, the intersections, right? Immediately, that's being shown. She's brilliant. Abracadabra is interesting to me. Death or love tonight. Okay. You have death or love tonight. Death or love. Gaga does something that's popular in a lot of her songs and popular in a lot of her works, which is sort of showcasing like having two options, having a piece of candy being like, you can choose this one or this one. Love or fame, love or death. What are you going to do? What would you sacrifice? What would you let go to fully embody love, to embrace yourself in love, to embrace yourself in dance? In love, Gaga will reference love as a lot of things: love of a person, love of a partner, love of self, love being dance, love being connection to fans, love being connection to civilization, love being a connection to higher power. Love is a lot of things. Love is everything, right? So whenever Gaga's referencing that, I can hear it in the way in which that she means it, but I also, my mind will percolate sometimes into thinking of love as in so many other things, right? Death or love tonight. Abracadabra has this like this tense sort of energy in that's like, what are you willing to live or die for? What is it that's going to motivate you to push through it? But you're dancing through it all, right? Gaga does this thing that I relate to personally in a lot of my own art, which is sort of alchemizing all of these energies into, or in experience into, art itself. So much of this is literally dance or die. She even talks about in her career this sort of willingness to say dance, music, art saved my life, literally. But there's also this figurative thing. There's this emotional thing. There's this figurative death and rebirth in the way that my mind thinks of it, right? Dance or die, you know? What I also appreciate about Abracadabra, which I think is interesting, is that you start off with the Victorian era, which is known for, what some of the things I already said, but also religion at that time, Christianity, Catholicism, so many Christian and heavily dominating structures of religion in the world. And Gaga is not one who has been shy to embrace and draw at and be taboo and all of that with religion in her music. You hear it in Bloody Mary. But what I appreciate about Abracadabra is you have, it's time to cast your spell on the night. I like her having references to magic and things that our mind will say magic. Even the beast we'll talk about later on, but this reference this reference to mythology that we know of, werewolves and vampires and gothic things and gothic lore and nature and stories, coming right in between two songs, Bloody Mary and Judas, that references Catholicism and Christianity, right? Those sort of and you put it under Velvet and Vice. It's just very interesting to me the way that she strums together those energies of religion, of love and sex, and seeing and sort of breaking it down in an artistic way, an emotional way, in a reference to life way, but also the way that she structures her songs, the way that she puts art together. It's done so in a way that there's always a comparison. There's always a reference to, or let me say this, there's always a showcasing of a larger political and economical message about the structures of the world that we live in. And it always references her own personal life, but also so many things that relates to other people as an individual. Using so many themes to people that are popular: religion, love, sex, taboo, culture, the things that we pay attention to, politics, the things that are going on in our world, and finding a way to explore that through her own artistry, that in the way that it affects her personally, internally, and to showcase that. It's very beautiful, but it pings my mind when I can see an artist's brain sort of working similarly to mine and saying, oh, here's this one idea of an energy that I've experienced, or here's one experience, but wait, here's also 10 other things in the way that it sort of connects to people culturally, economically, politically, socially, emotionally, musically, art, on an artist's level, and here's all the ways that this one thing has become 10, you know? So it's beautiful, but She performs Judas, amazing. We all know Judas. There's a lot of references to religion and things like that. There's sort of dichotomy between as well the choreography for both Abracadabra. Let me say this: Abracadabra's choreography is one of my favorites. That I can get into that, y'all. I can walk around my house naked with the blinds open, air on 60, and just. Oh, I can't even say that word on here. I think it's everything. I love Abracadabra's choreography. Shout out to Paris again. But anyways, Judas, Skeeby. Let me say this. Skeeby and Abracadabra are two highlighting performances for me in this first section. Abracadabra and Skeeby for sure. Because, and I'm saying Skeeby, that's not the correct pronunciation. But Skeeby is a song that has so much about standing in your own power as a woman. Without the needing of a man, without the suppression of men, without the whatever, but standing as a woman in your own power, in your own confidence, in your own knowing, and it does it in sort of in a radical rebellion. It being a rebellious act, crazy that has to be a rebellious act for somebody to stand like their own autonomy in any way of any way. But that song has that rage in it, and she comes out and it's that energy of you signing. She has these big feathers. She's signing declarations and pens, these grand political cultural statements with these wild women who are breaking out of their cages, knowing these women just simply want to be free. These women simply just want autonomy. These women simply are just wanting to stand in your power. But I've said it before in a previous video. You can check it out about male versus female rage and the way that that's displayed in art. There is something specific about feminine rage because of the way that it has the way in which it gets birthed through women and gets burst through people because of the country's history, in the world's history, with the way that it has treated and suppressed and tried to suppress and had its own ideologies about women, right? So you have these wild women coming out signing these declarations, being sexy, being wild, being taboo. There's this underground secret element to this. It's almost like a secret rebellion or an uprising or something you would found in a secret underground tavern or what's that word? Not bar stool, bar hop, brothel. You know, it's all these wild women with these feathers who are making these statements and there's so much being said there. And it's all under velvet of vice again. You know, you have the song about this wild political and economical and autonomous and sexual freedom under velvet and vice. It's just the brain be braining, right? And you have Garden of Eden as well, which is obvious. Once again, we're back to those sort of religious themes that are coming in. I'll take you to the Garden of Eden. I'm reclaiming my sexual but I'm doing it referencing, you know, the Bible, which some people will say that the reference to the snake and the apple is just a symbolism for sex itself. I've heard this before, right? So just leaning on that, but in a way that just sort of reclaims it. I could be your girlfriend for the weekend, right? Not even in this way of, and even referencing these things that some people may look at as, oh, cheap or whatever, but there's this sort of reclaiming of that, but it's still her own personal mayhem. You know, it's very, very beautiful. There's a ballroom remix with, I think his name is Gustafstein, please. Remix that comes up. The ballroom battle is beautiful, but let's cut right in. No. Let's talk about one of the best moments, if not number one, probably number two, of the entire Coachella performance. Definitely like a personal favorite of mine, if not my personal favorite of this entire performance. The poker face battle. Lord. First of all, it's her old era. So some people have been saying, you know, there's a representation of her old era that comes up. It's mayhem versus the good parts of herself, facing off in this chessboard of her light and her darkness against each other. Paris, once again, the choreography on this, I could lick my camera and spit in the speakers. It is like, it's beautiful. There's not even enough that I could say about that. And we got a long video to get through, all right? It's amazing. But with Poker Face, you have this old era come up, which is interesting to me because her old era is being represented by this sort of good part of herself. If that is in fact her intent for this main chess piece to be a representation of this sort of the famed classic era of her. It does reference a older look that she has worn before in a different, you know, color. But if that was the intent, it breaks my brain. It makes my brain percolate. It makes my brain ping, because it's interesting how this fresh, new, fresh on the scene version of you is being represented as the good parts, but in the end of this chess battle gets taken out by your own personal mayhem that comes out, almost this mayhem or specific mayhem that was birthed as soon as she was getting into fame so young. And we all know so many aspects of her story, right? This own personal mayhem that was birthed as soon as she was getting into fame. What mayhem was even produced by the results of fame itself that almost took out this sort of angelic, fresh-faced, powerful star, but this young, innocent person who is fresh on the scene, and all this mayhem now creeps in, and you sort of dealing with the dark sides of fame, but the own personal mayhem that comes out then. And in the end, that fresh-faced new era, that fresh-faced era, those good parts, she loses the battle. The acting in this, the theatricality, when Gaga shakes her and goes, ah, ah, I was a taken back. This is some of Gaga's best work. This right here needs to be, this is like number one, Gaga. If somebody came to me and they said, give me an entire 1 to 2 hour performance that could get me to understand this artist in a nutshell, if I could, I'd probably tell them Coachella. I'd send them Coachella or the Art Rave, and to be honest with you, it would probably be maybe the Coachella one. And that's hard because you can't put an artist or a human into a box whatsoever, but still. I got 1 2 hours. Make me know this person. Girl, Coachella just happened. And that's not because it's new. That's because she's just that good and has gotten better with time. Artists evolve. Act 2, and she fell into a gothic dream. Once again, it interests me because the way that Gaga can alchemize, and the way that she describes it in a Spotify interview, I believe, about the way that she sort of goes through these visions and the way that she experiences art, the way that she can see them and feel them and sort of live them or get lost in the reality or the fantasy or the whatever, you know, of it all, and alchemize that into art, beautiful, something I understand, something that I relate to, something that is amazing, a unique experience and an experience of a true person, a true human, a true artist, right? I would say that after Act 1, Act 2 is when we definitely start getting into more of the owning and sort of dissecting that dark side, that primal nature of things. Which is interesting because in Perfect Celebrity, there's a sort of primal anger, which this is also, I know it's all my favorite, but this has some of the best choreography that she's ever done. Some of the best theatrical work that she's ever done. Opening up Perfect Celebrity after this older version of herself that loses in the poker game is buried in sand. She's left alive, and it almost like she becomes almost like sort of this mask, because she's wearing it now in all white and blonde hair, and she's in the same sandbox as this old version of herself, or this other version of herself who's lost this battle. But she starts off with Perfect Celebrity in this stuck sort of fashion, like she's almost a mask. Is this the darker parts of herself that's almost sort of masking in amongst the good parts of herself that she's showing? Is this of another version of Gaga, of Stephanie, who is sort of walking around in this shell of this person that you maybe feel like you have to be, or that there's pressure on you to be in front of the cameras, in front of people, to be a celebrity, this push and pull of what it is I'm trying to do to break into my own autonomy or to embrace that. But there's this celebrity culture in Hollywood and so many other things that are suppressing that and squeezing me, and that are being thrown at me in this raw primal anger just as a person, as an artist, and all of it that's sort of raging out against that. There's this and the way it looks is like, you know, it's like I look beautiful, I'm angelic, I'm in all white, which is supposed to represent that sort of more good sides of herself. But this is where some of those most raw songs about the darkness, about that anger, about that sort of I'm the good girl, even like energy, like look at me, I'm the good girl, but revealing all of this that's inside and underneath and what I actually am, almost sort of how she says in Killer, like I look like, but just wait a second, wait till you see what's really behind here. Immediately that sort of brought out to me when she's, comes alive in Perfect Celebrity. It's like, oh, I see. You know what I mean? There's a lot of wink, wink, nudges, nudges in there. And you can see it in the disease choreography as well. But I loved it and it's beautiful. That set design, shout out to the people who did the set design. It's absolutely amazing. This old like coffin with the sand and so many different fluctuating images of gothic imagery. It even brought me back to like 60s, 70s, like gothic film almost, like even just the subtle references. I'm like, oh, this girl, this woman, like, your work. You know your work. Anywho, Disease, which is such a, she talked about that song being about her having to sort of interact and not run from and purge and integrate and face and heal and this battle between all these darker parts of herself. And even the image, even some of the lyrics is almost like repulsive almost, I can smell your sickness, screaming for me like you're gonna die. I can be your antidote. And she's almost like this little like sexy like nurse, almost like pumping her in this choreography, like bringing her back to life. But it's this sort of this wrestle, which is crazy because when I first heard the song, I was like, oh, it's obviously deeper than that because Gaga, come on, right? And I hear people always say that. I saw a recent interviewer, and this is no shade, I won't bring up anything because that's not the point of this video, but I saw a recent interviewer who was reviewing Gaga's work and was like, oh yeah, just these silly little pop fun songs, that's what we know her for. And there's a lot of babble and things like that she likes to say, and she's sort of returning to that. And I'm like, and me personally, I didn't feel that because I'm like, yeah, sure, some of it is, whatever, fun just for fun, or words just for words, or whatever just for theatrics. But I'm like, I don't believe that there's so many Gaga songs that are for fun, for a dance, but even that is radical within itself. Even that is healing within itself. And you can have fun for the sake of just fun. Things can be simple for the sake of just being simple, absolutely. But there are so many references in so much of Gaga's music, especially in early career, that are so deep, socioeconomical and cultural and internal, and that relationship between the outer and the inner of things that are going to him, even if it is a pop song that you can turn on and dance to and have a good time with and get drunk with and barely even hear the words to. There's so much depth to so much of her earlier music and this music and the things that she does. It is very rarely, unless it was just for her own personal enjoyment, for like I'm doing for fun, I'm writing this for fun, unless it just is that deep. There's so much of her music that is that deep. I've been seeing some people say, oh, she's saying random words in abracadabra, and I'm like, there's Italian words in abracadabra and some other things. Sure, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I see that sometimes when people are like, oh, she just does pop. And I'm like, well, just does pop, whatever. But pop, yeah. But, and I'm not saying that pop can't be deep, but I don't think that, I love an artist that has depth. So, Disease, beautiful. Paparazzi, beautiful. That reference, that armor that she brings us back to, a beautiful breakdown, a beautiful rendition of Paparazzi, honestly. This sort of slowing down moment in the middle of this act, which I think was done flawlessly. She looks amazing. It's like this sort of empty, haunted opera house that she does this in, and it does bring back a lot of, it calls back to a lot of references to her, Paparazzi when it first started. And I think Paparazzi is a brilliant song. The performances of Paparazzi and the stories that she chose to tell through her performance with Paparazzi, back to the old VMA version of it, representing Marilyn Monroe, is beautiful. This relationship between self and fame and love and being a star, and but also being in love, and there's a lot there, but it's done absolutely beautifully and it was phenomenal. Alejandro and the Beast, and I'll say the Beast first because then we'll slide into Act 3. But the Beast, let me say, is beautifully done because the Beast is probably one of those most raw, primal songs, I think, probably on this album, to be honest with you. The Beast interests me a little bit as I was reviewing it earlier because there's this thing in the Beast of saying there's this dark, primal energy, this darkness, this heaviness, this whatever that's inside every single person, right? It's in every single person, whether you're aware of it or whether you're not. No matter what your perspective is of how you may be connected or encapsulating of darker or heavier energies, right? Or emotions or experiences, or whichever the case may be, that may vary based off of your perspective. But everything has wholeness in it. So even if you're a really light person, and I mean light in any context you want to take that, there's also this darkness. There is this duality, which ain't really none of that, right? There's just a wholeness. There's a whole you. There's a whole you, a whole everything, a whole glass, a whole notebook, a whole cup, a whole person, a whole universe, a whole whatever you believe in, it's whole. So you're going to experience these energies of all across that spectrum, right? And the beast highlights that sort of wholeness, that sort of acceptance and facing of that primal energy within yourself, but more so within your partner, which is interesting because Gaga's saying in this song, there's so much of like, I see you for the most grotesque, the most dark, the most whatever energies that you have, that you feel, that you experience, that you deal with. I see you for all the raw. And in so many aspects of society, so much of vulnerability within itself is something that is shamed and shunned down. So much of darkness and the way that we talk about darkness and the way that we talk about emotions and experiences and trauma, whatever your perspective is, but even in certain communities, whether that be healing, artists, whether that be as people in our household, whether that be ignoring it and never having these conversations at all, whether that be in the spiritual community, whatever, it's done in such a way that some of it, I would disagree with, but some of it also, once again, your own individual perspective and relationship to these things. But Gaga looks at her partner and she's like, I see you for all of that. I want it now. I want you. There's this acceptance. And it's interesting because it's almost like when you accept all that for yourself, it's easier for you to accept that and accept when you accept those energies and your perspective widen on the energies. It's almost easier for your perspective to widen and for you to open up your heart to somebody else and to other people who also deal with those energies. So there's this sort of primal rawness, almost like caveman-like, natural human, instinct, or a part of natural human life that their partner is encapsulating, is experiencing, and she's like, I want you. And it's also a little like, oof, because there's also like this sexual desire that's coming from it. So it's not even like, not only do I want you, but this is turning me on, period. So there's like this whole thing that comes out with the beast, this sort of nature, and it's a unique energy. It's a unique energy, and I admire that and I appreciate that in this song. And even some of the other things, when the song starts out, she's like, I see, and it could all, who knows what the artist is actually saying whenever the artist is writing it. But with the beast, there's also this, when she's first starting out the song, it's, you look scared, you look panicked, you look like you're trembling, you look like you're not okay. There's even this even that subtle little reference, that subtle little energetic connection between the subtle energies, even if they're not these giant monsters sometimes within ourselves that we don't know what to deal with mentally, emotionally. There's this something so simple, fear. You're a little anxious. You look a little worried. Even those energies that some people would say that these are darker energies, or some people may feel based off their own experience, maybe suffocating energies, or hard energies, or mentally, emotionally, or physically debilitating energies, right? But there's this something as simple when the song starts. It doesn't even start off with this you're the beast. It starts off with this, you look worried, scared, I notice. And before this song, she plays Alejandro, which is a beautiful song. One of my favorite things about Alejandro, once again, Alejandro's interesting because there's this relationship between of love and adoration and lost love, but her also not being able to find it in so many men. I remember watching an interview a while back where Gaga talked about having these different relationships and not being able to find that in like a straight man and things of that nature. So, and even the video of this talks about the treatment of queer people in war, and queer people in the army, queer people during the Holocaust, and like Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and references like that. And the choreography to that is beautiful. Alejandro was once my favorite song by Gaga, once my favorite video. So I appreciate that. But Act 2, and how she fell into a gothic dream, and the envisioning of that is absolutely beautiful. Let's talk about Act 3. Nightmare that knows her name. Now, immediately when I hear that title, I'm like, okay, this is a woman, a person who is looking in the mirror and is like, I see myself for the wholeness of myself, the wholeness of this experience, including the darkness that is obviously being highlighted here. But I know my name. The power in saying, I know my name, I know my voice, I know my name. Shout out to any kids growing up who had little energies that felt like you didn't like your name. Or were like, ugh, when you heard your own name. Whole another video, right? But the beautiful nightmare that knows her name. And she performs Killer, Zombie Boy, Die With a Smile, How Bad Do You Want Me? And I like this interest. There's this full acknowledging of who you are, but it's like, I know my name, and it starts off with Killer, which is a song strictly about, not strictly, I won't suppress it or put it into a box, but it's a song that references highly about sexual power, about I know what I am, I know what I can do. You don't know what I can do, but you're gonna be shocked to know what I can do, right? There's that energy that comes out in Killer. Period. There's references between literally using like her body and her seductiveness as a weapon. The beautiful nightmare that knows her name, and she starts out with a song like Killer. Like, come on now. There's so many references to power and reclaiming power in places that women have been deemed powerless, right? And it's smart, it's beautiful, and it's personal to her if you know her story, and it relates to so many other people as well. Zombie Boy. First of all, let me say this. The outfits in this I love Zombie Boy so much. This girl comes out with these little cartoon skeletons, these little Halloween Party City craft store skeletons that you have hanging up in your PE class, your 5th period anatomy class, and all her doing this little choreography. With the act of this party, and your girlfriend isn't here, and your girlfriend isn't here. With this little skeleton, I'm like, okay, camp, you know. And she has on this Victorian era sort of like a princess sort of royal look going on with these classic little monster ball boots. Like it just ate, you know. And Zombie was a classic simple song, but beautifully the choreography was done amazingly. I love her visuals, and it was so playful and so fun, but also, excuse me, sorry, drink, but also done in such a good way that's like, baby, this is art. Like, I'm like, this is art. I'm like, and I'm not saying that playful is bad. That playful is amazing. It's just so good, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And there's a lot here just about relationships, you know, sexual power, relationship power, and then you have Die With a Smile, this sort of anarchish love song, as she famously, you know, references it. Just like at the end of the world, all I want is this love, who we are, what we got, and like just this beautifulness that's between each other. And that's all I need when this goes. If this were to end today, if the comments were to come, if we were to relive the dinosaurs, you know what I mean? This love is all that I truly need. And it's a very beautiful song, and it's a deep emotional song. And follow that up with How Bad Do You Want Me, which is basically saying you may have this, it's sort of interesting, How Bad Do You Want Me, because she's almost dissecting who both her and her partner are internally, and where they have like their lights, their shadows, their struggles, their not, and this sort of projected perspective of here's the way that I see myself, here's what's inside, here's what I'm thinking or that I know that you see me as, but here's what I also know that's inside of you at the exact same time, and vice versa. So there's this sort of deep connection that's going through the internal versus the perspective, the perspective of self, the perspective of another person in love with each other. And at the end of the song, pretty much at the end of the day, she's basically saying, this is all of these things in here, but I know that you also love them. Does that make you just as messed up as me? I don't know. Does that make you as what I would say, as evolved and embracing, as open-hearted as whatever, as me, right? Either way, hell yeah. How bad do you want me? Before we get into Act 4 and the finale, let's talk about the Mayhem walk. First of all, can I say this? I love the character Mayhem. I loved her representation and the way that her own mind and energy personifies on a stage the energy of her own darkness and chaos. This with the walking with the cane and this this bleeding of fashion, of emotion, of rawness, of darkness, of passion, of strength, of chaos internally, of chaos sort of energy, this embracing of all of that in such a theatrical way, in a whole way. It is beautifully done. I am obsessed with the Mayhem walk. Find her, get her. Tell mayhem. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire show. But what's also interesting to me is that Gaga, if you listen, as soon as she's finished How Bad Do You Want Me, I think, I didn't hear captions, I listened to it a couple of times, I think she's saying, she points up to Mayhem's henchwoman at the top of the opera, and they say, I think she's using the children. She's connecting with the children. What do we do? This is so bad, we can't do anything about it. We have to tell Mayhem, tell Mayhem, tell Mayhem. And then Mayhem comes looking for her. Here's my own dissection of that. If that is the words, this is my own thing flowing straight from me. Gaga is an artist who very famously connects through so much of her own just love and appreciation for what she does through the means of her fans and other people. There is a oneness, a love of connection, and an embracement of connecting with fans, connecting with people, merging people and becoming one again, what we naturally are through the act of art, through the act of expression, through the act of individualism, through the act of love, through the act of singing, of dancing, of healing, of being an advocate, of just being a person, of providing a space, through the act of simply hanging out with friends, through the act of spaces of dance and of culture and of settings where people can get together, through the act of connecting personally with her fans, and what she's done for so many different younger people, who has been this sort of mother, right, figure that has genuinely helped save people's lives, that has helped people, like I've said, for myself as well, a key moment that a key person that I looked up to, developing my own creativity, my own artistic instinct, and my own sort of embracement of myself, right? She's done that for so many people, personally for so many people, mental health, sexual struggles. There's so much. And there's this connection of people, and to say, I think she's using the children, or I think she's connecting with the children, if that's what she said. And if that's not what she said, let me know in the comments. But if so, we're still going to dissect this as if that's what she said. Tell Mayhem, and then Mayhem comes looking for her. Why? Why is it that when... Let me say it like this. You are owning your personal power, your personal freedom, your personal embracement of who you feel yourself to be. These sort of lighter aspects of you, this power, this radical love, this radical connection, this sort of, I'm being lifted up. I'm having help, I'm having community, I'm doing something that matters, I'm feeling wholer, is embracing out of you. And I think I'm using the children, the public. I think I'm connecting with people. I'm doing it through the act of radical connection, of radical love, of radical acceptance, of radical embracement, of radical be who you are. I'm connecting with people. I'm influencing a generation. I was about to say an entire generation, but let's be honest. Gaga, what, 2009s, 10s, it's 2000, I mean, in 5 years, it's 2030. Come on now, that's it. Like, 10, 20, 30, what, almost going to be 20 years, you know, of worth of people. What, 2 generations? I don't do math. Figure it out. Of people toward just worldwide sold out. My dad once said, I thought she started making music a while ago. Didn't she do Just Dance? I could have blocked him. Anyways, and we were face to face. I could have taken out my phone and blocked him in front of his face. But this radical connection of people, of love, of personalness, but here comes Mayhem. That's a problem. Here comes the personal inner darkness of yourself, the personal inner darkness of your own demons, of the energy of that you experience, of what the mental energy may say to you, of what darker energy, heavier energy may say that you may hear and be aware of, that you experience your own struggle, your own experience with that, and all of a sudden, why is your darkness something that may be disconnecting you from people, from the world? Why is your darkness something that may be disconnecting you from your fans, from the community that you're trying to build? Is it isolating? Is it debilitating? Is your darkness something that is trying to keep you from trying to keep her from stepping into her own most personal power or most evolved self? Is that something that she feels like maybe at one point in her career or one point in life, or maybe some days on a bad day when she wakes up, because mental health is real, energies are real, and they fluctuate, that you may feel like some days that your darkness is a thing that may be stepping you from stepping into yourself or a better reality or a better life or self. But there's also this, as we've seen here, this sort of embracing of wholeness, as this darkness has always be a part of me, and I've learned how to alchemize it and hold it, right? But why is mayhem something that has a problem with the way that you are connecting, healing, growing, evolving with other people? What is it? Is it the mayhem that comes from being famous? Is it the mayhem that shows up that wants to limit you as a celebrity, mentally, emotionally, the effects of being a celebrity that may disconnect you from connecting with other people in such a authentic way? Let's bring up art pop. This would be a great segment to do so, but you're lucky that I'm gonna wait a little bit because we're already an hour in. Right? But it's interesting to me. Oh wait, she's using this source as power, as love, as growth, as healing, to lift herself up. The mayhem must come and stop that. The mayhem won't like that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And then you move into Act 5. To Wake Her to Lose Her. Gaga talks about the sort of balance between living in a fantasy versus living in reality in her own sense. I won't comment too much about that because I haven't feel like I've maybe done enough research, for that. But I can understand it as far as oftentimes as artists, and everybody's perspective is different, so I can only speak from mine, but as artists who make art and who alchemize their own creativity and their own experience into art, you can experience so much different energy. And so everybody will have their own different perspective as far as how that grounds them or separates them or whatever in their own reality. And there are some people who may get lost in their own realities or may feel like that the reality that they live in their mind or in their body or they choose to is different from maybe some of the tougher things that's actually going on the outside or that's actually going on with them themselves, right? You can talk about this on a mental health level. You can talk about this on a spiritual level. You can talk about this in the reality that you choose to live in. It's the reality that you choose to live in, and you don't have to ever step outside that body no matter what level. There's all types of intersections and cross connections and goods and bads and polarity and the ascending of all of that you can get deep into that, so I won't. But what I will say is, to wake her is to lose her. Shadow of a man born this way, shallow, vanish into you. What I will say is that I think the outfit choices and the choreography is beautiful. Shadow of a Man and Born This Way. You have a song, Shadow of the Man, about sort of owning your power and finding how to be powerful as a woman and to stand in your truth in a room full of men and a dominating, in a male-centered dominating, not male, sorry, I did not mean to do this for male-centered. In a male center or a male dominating culture, whether that be in arts in Hollywood and your normal 9 to 5 in your household, right? But learning how to sort of stand in your power with that. And then I think going into Born This Way was a beautiful choice to have Born This Way be those outfits, the suits for the men and the suits for the women, but this sort of like cropped look for them per se. Not that it matters, but they're sort of embracing of all of these suits. They have an energy and an element of power to them. These suits that they're in are powerful, right? There's this element of owning your power with these 3 songs here, especially for, with these 4 songs, because I skipped Shallow, excuse me. there's an element of owning your power here with Shadow of Man and Born This Way. And with Born This Way, you have all of like these cool kids and individual characters all in their suits. It has that energy of New York. It has that energy of I'm fresh on the scene. I'm embracing myself. I'm owning this world. I'm owning my power. I'm moving up in the business. I'm moving up. I'm taking on the world as my own individual, unique self. All these cool, creative kids in their own individual individual selves and colors and hairstyles and whatever, but all in like these sort of symbols of power, symbols of professionalism, symbols of power, these big suits, the men in suits. It's smart. It's smart. It's smart. It's deep. It's cool. It's good fashion. Like, you got to appreciate that. And you have Shallow, beautiful song as well here. Let me say this also, to wake her is to lose her. Thinking about what I said about to wake her is to lose her, even with Gaga, to wake her up into what it is that's going on in her reality and sort of risking what may go on mentally or internally with that energy that she deals with for her own self. Or even sort of, if you wake up Gaga or if you wake up Stephanie, which one do you lose? Would you lose the opposite? Would you lose Gaga if you woke up Stephanie to what was really happening and what really needed to go on and what moves needed to be made? Would you lose Stephanie if you woke up Gaga and said, hey, this is what's actually going on? Which, it makes you think. But it's interesting that those songs come up with both songs sort of referencing Born This Way, that earlier era of her career, but also Shadow of a Man, which is sort of learning how to embrace that power and embrace that art of being a professional, of being an artist, of being a powerhouse in a room full of men from the beginning of her career to now, and it is interesting to me that these songs are placed in that category, to wake her is to lose her. And then you have Shallow, which is a song about like sort of just wanting to go all in with your lover, pushing you to that brink of, I want to know all the depths of you. It almost reminds me of The Beast a little bit. The Shallow is the lighthearted, is the blonde version of The Beast. It is this. Well, there's some other things in there. There's some real life, real elements to Shallow. So, but it's this. It almost reminds me of like somebody who's doing the same thing. It's like, do you even know the depths of yourself? Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Aren't you tired of this modern world? Like, do you even know the depths of yourself? Have you even experienced or seen the depth of all it is that you may be able to experience? And are you willing and do you want to share that experience with me? I want to push us both from the shallow ends of life, the shallow ends of ourselves, of our consciousness, the shallow ends of our personality, the shallow ends of who we show up to be in front of the world, in front of our friends, in front of our family, in front of the arts, in front of the media, in front of the cameras, the shallow ends of the way that we deal with or smother our own problems or our own vices or our own healing or our own whatever. I want to push us from the shallow ends of that and push us into the 15 feet deep. No goggles, baby. Your eyes are going to burn. No snorkel. Good luck. Grow gills. You better hurry up because I'm going to eat that last sandwich with the Doritos on there, so don't get hungry after you swim. Right? I'm pushing you into that deep end of the pool and saying, look at me, I want to see you. Don't you want more? Can you have more with me? Do you want more with me? It's beautiful. And Vanish Into You, which is a beautiful song. There's an element of wholeness to Vanish Into You that I believe. The fact that we're all connected. The fact that the people that you love and that you are spiritually meant to be connected with are connected. And Gaga's saying, even if it's from a different place or a different perspective, it's all whole, if you ask me. But Vanish Into You, there's this, when I die, can I vanish into you? Can you absorb me, my consciousness? Can a part of me that's meant to live on within you and the piece of you that's meant to live on within me, can we be one? Almost like, are you willing to return us back to what it is that we naturally are? One, even if it is from a sad place. Saw your face in mine in a picture by my bedside, in our bedside. It was cold in the summertime. We were happy just to be alive. Can I vanish into you. Yes! Yes! Give her the EGOT. Like, I don't even praise awards like that. Give her the EGOT. You know, there's such a beautiful element to that song. Into that universal connection, that universal love, and even some of maybe even the darker, more emotional energies that can come in that you may experience in the process of just existing and of dealing with love, right? It's beautiful. Now you have the finale, Eternal Aria of the Monster Heart. This is brilliant. It's beautiful, and it's smart. It's I don't want to say predictable because it's never that with her. It is perfectly aligned for this and for Bad Romance to be the closure. More so, in my personal, or at least what sticks out to me, from my personal opinion, less of even the choice of the song being Bad Romance, and more so the performance, the outfit of that being the last one. She comes out with these Victorian era doctors in the long classic crow-esque beak bird looking mask, this gothic sort of architecture mask, you know, restructuring her, taking her apart and putting her back together, and you hear all these sort of chaotic sounds going in the background, these hammers and nails and drills, these rough sounds. You know, it's like you're building a house, like you're taking together irons and fake pieces and parts, like you're trying to scavenge together what's left, and you're trying to rebuild this person, you know, into something that is real and authentic and true. And you finally reveal her, and it is full Gaga. It is this full embracement of the monster. It is this white angelic figure, but with these big monster claws, with this wrestling and those sort of religious and universal elements, with this diamond, you know, glittering deep blood cut in her chest of this huge cross and these monster hands. It's the full integration of the monster, of the light and the dark, how that darkness will manifest through the light. It is this wholeness, this encapsulation of her personal experience with all of the energy that she experienced, and in the embracing of that, right? Excuse me, it's beautiful. It is beautifully done. Beautifully. Even the ending, that dun, with that big monster claw, like, like, it is beautiful. And then Bad Romance, I think it's an amazing choice. I think it's an amazing choice for a lot of reasons. It's Coachella. It's an amazing choice to end the night in the desert off of Bad Romance. I think it's a brilliant choice. I think that Bad Romance is a very interesting song. It's a good song. It's a Bible song. I love that song. It has so much about, you know, her own relationships with unhealthy love and toxic love, and the history of dealing with the sort of the darker energies of love, which is something that is prevalent throughout Gaga's work, you know. So I think it's, you know, it's beautifully done. I also think that it, you know, taking it out, you know, even referencing off the top of my mind, referencing Bad Romance and that last performance, in the last act, which is the wholeness of herself, that embracement of the wholeness of herself, but calling back to Bad Romance, which was such a pinnacle in her career so early on. I mean, even the YouTube records, and even the reference that she was making in that video of sort of like this trafficking of artists and this trafficking of bodies, and this, you know, going on in the video for Bad Romance in the earlier element of career. It's smart, and it's a clear distinction, a deeper choice, in my opinion, of why Bad Romance for this last act. Why Bad Romance for this is the wholeness of me embracing that monster, of me calling back. Keep in mind, spitting again, but keep in mind, a couple of acts ago, we had the poker face battle where we were taking out this sort of earlier element of ourselves when the mayhem was coming up and sort of debilitating the light within me, or feeling like, or my perspective was, it's debilitating the light within myself. But you have this ending song where you're calling back to some of that darkness that you were first writing about, some of that darkness that was coming and that you were aware of in your earlier element of career. But it's when you are fully embracing the wholeness of the light, the wholeness of the darker energies that you experience, the wholeness of the dark, the wholeness of you, the wholeness. And it's this beautiful monster, right? It's very well done. And it even shows just the growth of herself and the growth and the evolution of her perspective and her own journey within herself, and the way that she alchemizes those energies within herself into art, her perspective of her journey, which is something that is so damn important for all of you, for everybody, for me, for everyone. The perspective of her own journey is brilliant. It's chef's kiss, right? I think that this performance, and then we'll move into the set, some honorable mentions, and we'll, just some thoughts on my art itself. So thank you for sticking around if that's all you wanted to hear so far. But I will say that I think that this probably is her best work. I think I think that the best choreography I've seen from her. I think the best choreography I've seen from her. Hands down. Some of my favorite outfits that I have seen, especially in recent timing. This is no shade to any other era. We don't do that on this page. This is about personal love and embracement of all of it. Some of my favorite things that I've seen of her from this area, of this era, in recent years, just in general. And I had tickets to Chromatica. I wasn't able to go to Chromatica. Unfortunately, at the last minute, I had tickets to the Boston show, and I bought tickets to the Atlanta show, and I wasn't able to make either of them. I will be at Mayhem. I'm gonna find a way. I'm being at Mayhem. But I wasn't able to see her for Chromatica. And I painted a picture that said Chromatica and art pop, because I was having my own revelations about the intersections of those two things for me at that time. I was in high school. That was a pandemic for me, baby. But it has some of the best wardrobe, some of my favorite set design, my favorite production of art. I love the theater element that Gaga brings. Like, this is probably one of my favorite performances from her, and I think one of the best showcases of who she is as an artist, a talent, the embracement of all these different aspects of herself, and the way that her mind and the way that her spirit alchemizes energy into art, on a stage, in acting, in fashion, in poetry, because there's so much of that goes on in writing and production and singing and dance and so much. You can see that bleed into everything that she does, and you can see that sort of those values of standing up for what's right, those socioeconomical, those sociopolitical, those cultural commentaries of things that are important to ourselves. You can see the depth of her as a person in all of the experience, and not just certain things that people are okay or wanting to talk about. And even the embracement of things that we don't, sometimes as people don't want to talk about, which is also human. You have a real human experience and a rawness of breaking free of perfectionism, which makes it oh so perfect, that is embraced her. There's a human and an artist, and in all of it, there's a wholeness to the things that she does, and a depth, and it is one of my favorite showcasings of that, and I think it is absolutely beautiful. I think she did an amazing job with Coachella. I know that Mayhem is going to be the same. I know that. Let's talk about this opera house. So, So now I'm going to give my shout outs to a TikToker, and her name will be on the screen, because I actually watched her video. I saw that Gaga reposted it, but I watched her video breaking down this sort of fact that this whole set of Coachella is an opera house, which is amazing. That in the Victorian era, in the Gilded Age, that opera houses were basically these symbols. I recommend that you guys watch her video. She breaks it down beautifully. But these opera houses were basically symbols of power, deeper than just music. I'm recording a lot of her video because I'm just learning this. Like, we obviously all know in culture, the opera, this sort of symbol of richness, of opulence, of romance, of all of that, right? He took me to the opera. Can I take you to the opera? Let's go to the opera together, right? But that opera houses were once sort of these institutions, and even still are, that represented elitism and power and theatricality, and not even just showcasing music, but also showcasing the grand scheme of money, of what I have, of my outfits, of wardrobe, of the seats, of everything, right? And how even a lot of rich and upper echelon people were denied entrance into like the Vanderbilts and things like that. They were denied entrance into opera houses because they couldn't cut it. You weren't grand enough, you weren't rich enough, you weren't deep enough, and had wealth, right? And how opera was sort of moved to New York with the Metropolitan Opera House by the Vanderbilts, a lot of new money, and basically opera houses became this sort of status symbol of power, of theatricality. Let me show you what I have, of embracing that, of indulging, of sensuality, I would say, including the music and the arts and of fine art and things of that nature for people. It's a political and became a political and economic structure as well as an artistic structure, which one could say is one and the same, right? But even just things like Coachella, right? Which I remember for me growing up, Coachella, was sort of like the people, the richer people, or the influencers and the people of California and, X, Y, and Z were the ones that you saw at Coachella in front row and making all the videos and taking all the pictures and things like that. And, everybody else was like, oh, let me try to watch it live stream at home, right? And I'm not saying that with any connotation, but that was sort of like the experience, or the perspective of the experience at the very least. So even that sort of connection between even Coachella once for a lot of people, because she says it in her video as well, with Coachella sort of being that symbol of that sort of powerhouse of like the sort of symbol of power, the sort of symbol of upper whatever, even if it's through the lens of people in 20 whatever watching it through social media and seeing people take their pictures. I've seen people with the tickets and the X, Y, and Z, and not everybody having these sort of access to that. So I think that's sort of, the opera house in Coachella is like interesting, and I'm not saying that to diss either, but I'm saying that to take a look at an authentic picture of different perspectives of the way that these things have shown up in our world, right? And what people's experience with them have been. And the fact that Gaga chose to literally tear down, as the creator also said, tear down this opera house and bring it to the desert and present it to everyone, where not only am I showcasing so many different scenes of these political things and this power, this reclaiming of power in love, in spirituality, in religion, in death, in mental health, and through emotions, and through energies, and through darkness, and through wholeness, and through sexual power, and power, and gender, and so much that's going on here. There's so many different statements, socioeconomic, sociopolitical, socio-cultural, socio-emotional statements that are being made, but I'm also choosing to put them on a stage where the entire set design is an opera house. And then I'm tearing it away from this place where it's supposed to be preserved for the only certain types of people that can afford it, certain types of people who can fit the bill. And then I'm presenting it and making all of these statements while reclaiming my own personal mayhem, but I'm also sort of giving it as a gift to the fans and gift to the crowd and gift to the people who are live streaming it at home, to say I'm now giving you this this picture of this set of fine art, which has been excluded from you for such a long time. But I'm also making these statements, but I'm also reclaiming this for myself. My point is, it's deep and it's brilliant. And I also think the opera house was such a smart choice to showcase Gothic architecture and Gothic fashions and aesthetics, right? And I love visuals. Okay, let's praise the set. Shout out to Paris Goebel, the creative director, the choreographer. Shout out to Gaga for the creative director, the artist, the performer. Shout out to the costumes, Perry. Can't say the last name. It'll be under here. I'm sorry. I do apologize. Nick Royale, Delara, as well as the people. I saw the names on the actual screen, but I wasn't able to catch them down. So this is all that Google would give me. But as well as people who did the lighting, engineers, the camera crew, personal stylists, personal team to Gaga, to all the dancers, extras, security work and shit. Like, y'all all did a fantastic fantastic job. Yay! Let's see if we can up our skills and add like confetti or something here, sparkles or whatever. But here are my closing thoughts. People need to do this more. Sorry. Listen, let me say this. Don't tag me. Don't add me. You can tag me or you can add me, actually. But let me say this. Let me start off by saying this, right? I, as an artist, will never say that what you do is an art. I could have even my own personal opinions, or just a day where I'm like, girl, that ain't art. We can talk about AI if we want to, right? I could say whatever I want to say. At the end of the day, everything is constantly changing. Existence all is now, and art is something that encapsulates everything. So it is contradictory. It is both one and the same. It is a lot of different things to look at an art or of any person and say this is an art. Because you can also say, yes, it is, regardless of if it's up to my own personal tastes or philosophies or beliefs or whatever. We can get into all of that. But what I will say is that all right, personal opinion. I relate to and appreciate art that's deep and artists that are deep. I love fun music. I love fun movies, fun TV shows, fun fashions. I love fun everything. If it's just fun for the sake of being fun, let's flow with it, let's do it. Cool, I'm down with that. I love a good bop I could just put on. I love something as well that's gonna make me think and learn and grow and relate to, that's gonna give me experience, that's gonna make my brain tingle a little bit, that's gonna hit on a deeper level, that's going to connect me to something that's gonna inspire me in my art later on when I'm producing art as an artist, when I'm riding down the street and seeing something and being like, I love the type of art, regardless of even if it is just dance or just poker face or just whatever, that I can see a person walking down the street with their mom holding a snowball and be like, that's a real human experience. And somehow I can see that on the stage when you're performing in front of millions of people, that there's a touch of that real human experience in the things it is that you do, because people are deeper than that. As I was saying, but I love things that are just simple. I love things that make me think. And I love it when an artist can put real human experience and real human truth into the art that they make. I love an artist that actually puts passion and effort and thought and has a certain personal depth that resonates with me. A personal depth of self, a personal creative vision that not only pushes the boundaries and not only tells stories and makes connections, but through the things that they put on a screen, through the clothes that they wear, through the way that they choose to write their songs, through what it is they're saying, their messages, their connection to self, that universal art that connects all of us. I love an artist who's aware, who's willing to grow, who's flowing, who's always can push the boundaries, who can always do something different. And it's not just to say, keep me entertained, keep me buzzed. It ain't about none of that. It's about constant sort of growth and change and stillness and elevation and elevation and death and rebirth. I love seeing that in an artist's work and how it's personal and unique to them, and the way that it connects to all of us as people, the way that it connects through experience. So I love seeing an artist, much as myself, a multi-hyphenate, a jack of all trades, a person that is able to a person who has a love for pushing out their art, experiencing art through so many different realms, for fun, for pleasure, for all of it, whether that be fashion and music and film and writing and poetry. I love seeing that. Originally when I wrote this, I had it in mind that I would sort of break down my sort of issues with other parts of the artist scene, whether that be popular music or not, that does not embrace that. But I don't feel that it necessary to highlight that at this current point in time. I'll say that we have seen culture evolve where there are certain sections of culture that may not appreciate that may not have their may have a different relationship when it comes to depth in art, that may have a different relationship when it comes to depth in art, that may have a different relationship when it comes to the way that they like to consume art, or the way that they like to throw away art, or the way that they don't like to learn about art whatsoever. And I'm saying art not just in a painting, but art across the boards, the fine arts, right? We have certain corporations that don't want to put any emphasis behind art and experience and human, and the things that makes art are the things that connects us, and the radicalness of it, the amazingness of it, and that just want to do it for profit, that just simply want to do it for $1, that simply wants to push something out to keep things popular. We have people that want to control and put binders and dividers and subsections into arts, into categories, in order to make it consumable, in order to make it something that you can profit and pick off of a shelf, like you're going to the store and picking out a carton of peanut butter and saying this one has the best daily deals and let's get this one. We have people that want to capitalize capitalism and art, right? You know, and that want to plant those seeds in it, instead of letting art be the natural forest and the natural, you know, expanding universe, the expanding city, the expanding river, and let it flow. And I could talk about that for, you know, a long time. But you know, I could acknowledge that and still say that my personal love is where I can see an artist and I can see a creator that has that similar experience, as far as depth and as far as having a love for different art mediums and alchemizing their actual experience, their actual energy, their darkness, their lightness, their perspective of the world, their ability to speak, to share a message, to speak out, to say that, as well as their ability to just simply have fun and to put that out into a song if that's what they want to do, or put that out into a film. And that is something that is so beautifully done to me and embracing of me, and there's that I embrace, excuse me. And there's a reason why these legends last as long as they do. Is because there is an eternalness to them. Because when you're living your truth as an artist, growing, evolving, following that flow, embracing the wholeness of yourself, of the universe, of your experience, of whatever it is that you want to call it, and putting that into the art that you make, into the things that you write, into the things that you do, there you won't lose. When you're following that path of authenticity and of real experience as an artist, as a person, as a human being, and this is your daily life, whether you're an artist or you're not, you cannot lose. There is no such thing. You can't ever really lose for anybody, but you can't lose. You see what I'm saying? And there's a reason why you see certain artists who have been doing it since 2009, 2008, 1990, 1980, 1970, right? I got Jazz Fest coming up, and they got people and artists coming in here that's been doing this since the 60s and 70s. There's a reason why there's an eternalness to these people who are making art out of a pure place of making art and of experience, versus people who may make art for different intent, or people who may be driving art out to you with the intent of not for art and not for, yeah, hey, we all love, you know, being able to make money and yada yada yada, right? I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm not demonizing that. You ain't ever gonna hear me say that. But people who may make art, or people who may be producing art, trying to sell you art or market you art for any other purpose besides the fact of telling stories or making art or personal whatever, but intentions that are rooted in something that is not about the art or the story or the experience or the consumer, or about a connection, or about revealing or bleeding or purging or having fun, or any part of the real experience besides, let me just make money, let me just get your let me try to limit your ever-growing perspective into something that makes it easier for me to simply make money, to capitalize off of, to use, to X, Y, and Z, right? Because not everybody that is into the art or into the art industry, or that is in that, may be in that for those reasons. Anyhow, so I appreciate that willingness to be raw and authentic, and stand in that power that you see in Gaga. You see it in a lot of artists. There's a reason why these legends are legends, you know. You could name some of the popular ones, right? I like to embrace all music personally, but you can name some of the American, pop names, top names that, every house is going to know. You can name your Gaga and your Beyonce and your Nicki. Amazing. Come on, let's talk about rap stress. You can name that hashtag thing. Doechii is up next. Don't at me, but beautiful lyricism, logic, mind, passion, connection, beautiful with Doechii. But Katie's and Lil Wayne's and Patti LaBelle's and Aretha Franklin's and Whitney Houston's and Mariah Carey's and that's problematic. And Shares, and I'm trying to think of a male. Somebody help me, please. I already said Wayne. Amazing Frankie Beverly and I don't know, the Beatles, and there's a reason why these names sort of transcend times. David Bowie, there was another, even though some of these artists I haven't personally gotten into like that, like David Bowie and the Beatles, but there's an element of artistry, an element of authenticity. RuPaul, an element of rawness, an element of individuality, an element of trying to share real experience, real fun, real truth into what it is that they present and produce out to the public, and letting that sort of lead you without the intent of it being anything else other than that, or even if the intent is just simply telling your story or spreading a message that you want to say. But when your truth is based in things of that nature, and you're able to do that, and you have an appreciation for art and for self and for expression and for finding that, that's a beautiful thing. That's a raw thing. It's the nature of life to create. It's the nature of life for deaths, whether that be personal, figurative, literal. It's the nature of life. And one thing about it, existence is something will always be there. Even if we'll talk about on a scientific level, matter. If I take this chip right now and I crunch it, or I go burn it and it's down to ash and I blow it away and you can see it in my hand anymore, that energy, those particles, it's still there. It's matter, right? It's all energy. It's just going to be something else. If I were to go crumple up these grains into the grounds and then the birds come eat it and then they go use the bathroom or something and fertilize something else, and who knows what, or flower grows or whatever the case may be, I don't know. Right? Or if I go toss out a piece of bread and some of the grains or the seeds fall out of that bagel that I had this morning and it falls into the ground and it plants a whole another garden of, whatever the case, of wheat, right? Whatever. It's the nature of life. So after something is destroyed, to even in our own personal lives and our own personal self, when that death, when that darkness, when that whatever, when that amazing, beautiful light of transformation and of death comes, it's natural for something to be created from that. So for a person to create, it's the natural state of life. And once again, I will say that resonates with me as an artist level, but it also resonates on me as a human level. I don't care if you make a child. I don't care if you are writing a paper for school. You're creating. Even if it's something that's been assigned to you, it's the natural flow of life to create, right? Even if you're creating, even if you're having a conversation with somebody, you're creating your own experience by having that conversation and by maybe giving a laugh to somebody, or maybe just providing an experience for somebody else to be sitting with somebody that's being authentic or whatever. It doesn't matter. You can say it applies to every single situation in life. You're creating. It's what it is that you're doing. Sitting on the sofa doing nothing for 6 days, dealing with mental health locked up in your bedroom. You're creating. Even if you don't see it, if you're not intentionally, things are creating around you. It's a natural form of life. So being able to alchemize that into actual art and say, now here's this experience that we all collectively know as a person, and here it is in a show, in a film, in a song, in an outfit. That is beautiful. That gets me going. So I value that, and I value when art is coming from good intent and pure intent, and all the abundance of things like that comes with it. You know what I mean? Versus it coming from intent that's not that. And there is nothing wrong with just wanting to be famous and wanting to, have, there's nothing wrong with those things at all. It's not to demonize something, but this is to, talk about that a little bit. So those are my thoughts on Gaga as an artist, on art as art, and on Gaga's Coachella 2025. It was absolutely beautiful. I will be seeing her, and please let me know you guys' thoughts on any of the things Gaga related. If you guys want to see any more videos of me, I'm going to start doing more reaction videos on here and review videos on here, where you'll be able to see me react to things live and being able to see my honest reviews and thoughts and have conversations about this. Let you guys let me know, if there are anything else, Gaga related, arts related, music, culture related that you guys, or film or TV show as well, because we're going to be broadening those things, you know, books, culture that you guys like to, you would like to review with me and talk about together and see my own thoughts on. But 100 out of 100, she passed Kahoot. Proud of her. And you guys have an amazing rest of your day. You guys have an amazing April. Drink water. I believe as of right now, we're still testing the days as far as when we're producing videos. I believe as of right now, Saturday could be my upload days for videos right now. I've been experimenting sort of week by week, seeing where we're gonna fall because we're just starting out. So it'll be between those Friday and Saturdays, but we're gonna keep this going for right now to see how we're feeling. And please feel free to always comment, like, subscribe, reach out to me. My email, my socials are all in my bio. And I hope that you guys are well. It's Phoenix.